Welcome to Public Comment. I'm John Dunbar, former mayor of Yountville.
And I'm Alfredo Pedroza, just a farmer.
And I'm Scott Lewis at V Wine Cellar in Yountville.
Thanks for joining us as we talk about politics, people, business, and whatever else is on our mind.
And some wine.
And some wine.
We've lost the locals a bit in the mix around
And
here.
I think human nature wants us to socialize, and wine is that thing.
We're not at the bottom yet. I think we have another year to go.
The history of Napa Valley has been a very resilient history.
You're drinking wine, and that's good.
Scott, thank you so much for joining us as we're kind of getting into 2026. It's good to see you again and celebrate, I know, your 20 plus years with V Wine Cellar and also the relaunch and resurrection of Panchas. So we're looking forward to hearing more about those things that are part of your life. But let's start with a little of your background. I know you came from Ireland. So how did you come from Ireland to Yountville?
I heard about the wine.
30 words or less. No.
Very quickly, my background is hotel management and a culinary degree back in Europe. And I actually won a green card in the lottery back in 1992. So
the lottery is a little bit different.
It's a bit different from right now. So I came the right way, though, the legal way.
Yeah.
For any of those of us listening out there, no ICE agents, please.
You know, I got to ask, though. So were you running a business while John was mayor?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You deserve
it. Was thriving.
You deserve better. I'm kidding, John. I'm kidding. But I think that's a cool perspective.
We had a great time.
Yeah, it really was a pleasure to work with you. And you were also working for the whole property for a while with F&B. And so I know you have that very extensive hospitality background, and it was in the family when you first started growing up in the industry. And tell us a little bit more about what it is like for the last 20 plus years to own a small business. I mean, V Wine Cellar, an exceptional local, just classy joint, wine cellar, tasting room.
You live in the city of Napa now, John. You can stop the platitudes.
It's always been one of my favorite places, and Scott's one of my favorite people. And so but tell us about, I mean, you've been through kind of all of it, right? Earthquake. And I remember that morning, maybe even share a little bit of what that was like, but the realities of owning a small business, especially a wine shop during a 6.0 earthquake.
Yeah. So, I like to think that my favorite comment there was like, when the locusts come, it's time for me to move back home, because I've been through floods, fire, earthquakes, recession, global pandemic, you name it.
I didn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's kind of.
There's only one left.
Yes, there's only one left. And they come, I'm out of here. So that's it.
Damn.
It's been, I was lucky to land in Yountville thanks to the Egan family many years ago, who owned Villaggio and Vintage Estate, and I got to work with some really great people there. The ownership were fantastic, and they gave me an opportunity to start my own business. And I've worked for many years. My father was a hotelier in Ireland, and I worked in 5-star hotels around the world. And I just, it was a leap of faith to sort of say, okay, invest in yourself. And they gave me that opportunity. So for that, I'm eternally grateful. A lot of great support. And then how lucky was I to end up in Yountville? I mean, it was a thriving community, small businesses, great restaurants, and obviously you've got the excellence of wine surrounded by it. So it's just, I look back at it and I think really that was a special time. And, times change, obviously, so we're moving into the next era. But it was a great opportunity. And
let me ask you a question, Scott, if I can, because I
think we need to first toast.
Let's have cheers
toast
to
to the old days.
Yeah, cheers.
We're not. These aren't props. I just I always remind people.
But we got to drink every time.
It's required. Yeah.
But one of the things that when we were in office, we would hear about the locals saying, "Well, there's nothing for us, right? You're just catering to tourism." And I don't say that not being grateful for what tourism does, but as a business owner, how do you balance the pressure of serving those that want to visit Napa, but those that live here too?
Mm-hmm. For years, I think we had thankfully we've had a great following from local vintners and local friends and chefs, and they've definitely helped support us through the tough times. But I mean, like going back to like thinking of like the financial crisis. The world shut down in the sense of like, the first thing you do is get rid of your mistress, and the next thing you get rid of is your wine club. So,
what comes first?
Well, that's up to you. But I think back in that particular time, because as a new business back then in 2008, I was looking at this and saying, this is not going to really impact me. But it was the locals that helped support me during those tough times. People came in, they supported local businesses. We obviously had to, be mindful of what the pricing of everything was. But for me, it was a great learning lesson. I actually ended up traveling quite a bit as well and going to China and Hong Kong and Taiwan and Singapore as well, because they were the only people buying wine at the time. But it was a combination of that and also the local businesses taking care of people, which was pretty impressive,
Yeah.
So, and I think, jumping ahead here again, this is what we're trying to do with Panchas again, is bring back something for the locals, because we've lost the locals a bit in the mix around here. I mean, I listen to people every day coming into the store or even to the bar now as this happens, and it's the same things people are talking about. They're talking about fuel, they're talking about food, they're talking about costs, and I'm right there. As well. I get it. And so I think it's important, and I think that just looking at we've been open almost 4 weeks at the Panchas, and without any tourists, and it's all locals, the response has been phenomenal.
So we had many conversations in the early days of you and Ren Harris and the rest of the partners getting together.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I was sharing, or one of the things I was sharing in terms of my opinion about what you might be getting yourself into, was the very delicate balance of bringing back an iconic favorite experience and location that was really one of the very last memories of the 1800s in Napa Valley.
It felt like it too.
And you definitely could feel it and smell it, but it would be different, guaranteed to be different. It had to be different because nothing had been done to that building in decades, and it needed to be. And so the caution for me was, it's going to be very challenging for you to satisfy everybody, almost impossible. I know it's early and it's only been a few weeks, but what has been the reaction? Are you hearing, oh, we miss the old this or the old that? Or is it, we love what you've done with this and that? Because I know you've literally recovered some things like the pool table, and you've remade as much of the old as you can, but it's not the same.
No, I was just mentioned this before off air, and we were talking about the state of the building prior to us getting it. I mean, the building was falling in. It was a death trap, and it was closed in 2019, and there was major repairs that need to be done. So we essentially had to frame the existing building and build a brand new bar from the inside out, and everything, insulation, pipe, plumbing, electrical, roof, everything. The only things we saved was the pool table, the metal bracket for the sign, and a couple of pieces of wood that we have used for shelving.
That weren't rotted out. I mean, plus, but also being historic, you had to be careful.
That was historic?
We had to do 2 CEQA reports on this one. So, which
did you require that?
No,
that happened after I left office.
No, we had to do 2. One we had to do, and then another one for the town. But they determined that the building was not. It is the oldest business in Yountville.
Yeah.
However, the building itself, architecturally or anything like that, is not. It was not deemed historic. Plus, the only thing that we did do is we expanded the bathrooms because they weren't up to code for ADA compliance, and obviously our vets are our customers across the street.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a thing with me as well. I wanted to make sure that that we're totally, it's, the theme I put there is chefs, vets, and vintners, and the locals.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our mission statement, who we're taking care of. And that's our primary. And then after that is everything else is the extra. So the tourists are the extra, the other people from other towns. But anyway,
I want to go, sorry to interrupt, but I need to ask. So you had to do CEQA to remodel a building that was falling down.
Refurbishment.
It's just, I want to pause on that, John, because here you have a business owner, you're putting real money into it, Scott, right? Into improving this. And we should be encouraging that. Other parts of the world, the government subsidizes some of this stuff. I wouldn't want government subsidizing this, but government should get the hell out of the way when you have someone that wants to do something different to improve it, right? So I had to vent on that, but Panchas, I want to tell a story. I think we were at a school fundraiser across the street. I think we were all just enjoying some good wine. We ended up at Panchas, and I enjoyed tequila, so we get some tequila. The glass was warm. The tequila was warm. And then we go for more.
At least it was probably just out of the dishwasher.
That's one way to look at it. So then we ordered another shot, and it wasn't even tequila that they gave us.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then we were playing pool. So I remember that. And we were down as me and another council member. I won't mention their name because I don't know if they want to be attributed to it. But I was worried we were going to get our ass beat because it was a different crowd, right? But that's what made it attractive. And I do think you're right. That place was going to fall apart. So you did a good job.
No, it already had fallen apart.
Yeah.
I mean, it was every few years, some folks that had horses would stop and tie their horses up on the hitching posts up front that was still there. That's about the only thing that I think was still maybe compliant, if you could say that. But
maybe a question for Scott, John, though, is as a business owner, you chose to make an investment in Yountville, right? In a time when it's changing, right? City of Napa is getting more people, St. Louis going through their stuff. What makes Yountville unique for you, though, Scott, in terms of making an investment there? For me, I've been there for almost 24 years, 25 years. And it's kind of my home. I've lived in Yountville for many years. I live in Napa now, but it's kind of where I've been. If you think about it, I mean, I've been in Yountville most of my life than anywhere other place I've lived or worked in. And I believe in, a lot of what goes on in the community there. People, I think, the town is a bit quieter now. I mean, I will say that. I mean, there's less businesses in town. And I think that's just a sign of what's happening economically, not just in Yountville, but I think across the country. Yeah.
And then obviously you add the wine impact that's happening which has been going on for like the last year and a half. So for me, it was, this was something that was needed and something that I knew I betted that, the locals will embrace it because again, there's not many places you can go in this valley and have a shot of whiskey and a beer for $10. So, and that's it's called the Rose package, by the way.
Oh, yes. Rose Solis.
Yeah.
But if you try to make that an $11 package, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, like this week, the original question you were going back was asking about what was the feedback. In general, I would say it's been very positive. There's some people coming in and said it's not the same, and it's not. No, but at the same time, is like you've got clean bathrooms, you've got clean glassware, you've got tequila that's tequila.
Properly, yeah. That's a start, right?
Well,
and then I mean, there was a lot of charm of what was passed, and I was a good friend of Rose's as well, which was the matriarch of Pancha's, and she was a hell of a character. As some person came in the other night and says, when I asked her for a pina colada, she screamed out, "Okay, everybody get the fuck out of the bar. I got to go down the street and get pineapple so this bitch can have a pina colada." But she made friends like that, so.
There were people that would come to Pancha's just to get thrown out by Rose.
Yes.
If not punched in the face by Rose.
Yeah. Did you ever get thrown out?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Hate to see it.
I think there might have been a permit that was required coming up and they didn't want to throw me out. I don't know.
Oh, John. Well, a question about hospitality, because you said you started in the hotel business.
Yes.
And part of what I see, whether it's Napa or Vail or all these other destinations, part of it is bringing tourists in.
Mm-hmm.
But then along the way, you have to adjust to make sure locals are seeing the benefit of what the tourism community's created and benefiting, right? The revenue that it creates for cities. How do you think Napa's handling that balance of creating incredible revenues? I think 66% of the town budget is hotels, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's Napa doing managing that balance?
I think that, as someone who's lived downtown here, I think they're doing a great job here in downtown Napa. I mean, I've seen the improvements over the years, and it's definitely, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's night and day.
Well, it used to be empty storefronts all up and down downtown.
And then just, the activation, even what we've got going on right now, we've got the winter festival going on with the lights and all around town, which is fantastic. I mean, the weather's beautiful right now. And of course, it's great to see, like this last weekend, I think there was a lot of people in the valley. It just felt like people are ready to be out again, and it's February. But how do I think they're managing it? I think they're doing a good job. I think that I know that the new town manager in Yountville is about activating businesses and getting people. We're doing a Mardi Gras festival here next Saturday, parade, which we did first one last year.
It may have already happened by the time this episode is published, but people shouldn't go run out looking for a parade.
No.
Maybe they should. There'll be more business. Yeah.
But so I do see activations happening. They're kind of mindful of what there needs to be more stuff done for the locals, and I can see more of this happening. That's a big question, because everything kind of works well together when you've got the right balance, and balance is everything. And right now, I still think that we're a bit off balance when it comes to, I do a lot of work in San Francisco as well with some friends in the food and beverage industry. And they can see a positive movement with their new mayor and attracting conventions. Yeah. Conventions was a segment of business that we had up here that disappeared over the last 6-7 years. It was anywhere from about a 10 to 15% capture of high net worth individuals coming up here spending money and having an additional vacation onto their convention. We lost all of that, and that was just because of what was going on in San Francisco. But you can see positive movements happening there, and I think that hopefully that correlates and trickles back up here to us as well. But I guess looking at this time of the year, you got Valentine's coming up, and creating packages that are kind of more price sensitive to what the punter is paying out there right now. I mean, everyone's looking for business, and everyone's getting creative in other cities and other states.
Well, and speaking of being creative, being again a local small business owner, not only the tragic loss of inventory at the earthquake in 2014, which I happened to come and check on you early in that morning and could not believe the devastation. You can imagine glass bottles and a 6.0 earthquake don't get along. Yeah. But that could have been the end of it for a lot of people in your situation. But you've been able to be resilient and get through a lot of these different challenges. What do you attribute that ability? Is it just like, oh, I'm not going to quit. I'm doing this. We're going to figure out a way to get out of this. But also, one of the things Alfredo and I have said during the years, this is season 3 of our podcast, we want to hear from the people like you that have the businesses that are experiencing the truth of running a business. So not only through all those challenging times and the wildfires and all that, but tell us the state of just owning and operating a small business.
And I just want to kind of double down on that, John, because I appreciate the people that go in and say it's not the same. Well, guess what? You should have bought it, right? And you didn't buy it. So you can bitch or be part of the solution. And I really mean that, because I think what you're underscoring, John, is that people have been stress tested and they don't quit, right? Going and seeing your wine shattered or the pandemic, they're still here.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that resiliency, I think it's something to focus on, because part of this podcast was like, how do we highlight that perspective, Scott, that you've been hit and you're still here, right? Thank you, by the way. But I think telling that story in a human way.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I think back in that earthquake warning, and I was here in Yountville. I was living in Yountville at the time. I was awake during the earthquake, actually, and I was reading. And anyway, I thought that that was it, like game over. I was hanging onto the headboard, and it was like, and so that was my first thought. And then second thing was I went down. I was living in Burgundy.
Was that your first major earthquake in all the years you've been living in California?
I was at the other one that was
89?
not 89. The other one, there was one in San Francisco, if you remember. That was it was 90.
I know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, I was at that one, but that was the first major one, and especially having a business. But anyway, so the second thing I thought about was, oh shit, the wine store. So I went down to the wine store, and I could smell the store before I could even open the door. And it was I lost about 2,000 bottles that day. And
plus it was pitch black. It was 3:30 in the morning and no power anywhere.
Yeah,
and so
no power.
You weren't sure what you were walking into, literally.
Yeah. So I mustered up some friends, and it was friends that helped me. And the next, so we've been open every day of the year since I've been in business. So we open on Christmas Day. I usually work Christmas Day. Wow. We open Thanksgiving Day. And so that one day I thought, oh shit, we're going to break this record. But no, we actually reopened later that morning because we got power. The rest of the town the other side of the town didn't have power. However, Bouchon across the street lost one bottle. I lost, so that was the rub. And the way it came through town was like a wave. So, and I obviously hit the crest of the wave. So, so I think my friends really sort of supported me. I had an earthquake sale that morning, so
Discount.
And the floors were nice and ruby, and the place smelled like a distillery with a winery with a beer with port and everything. So it really christened the place good off. But yeah, no, it was. I think a lot of things have been, and I've been lucky enough in my career, is having great friends and great customers. I call them great friends because that's what they end up being, And I think that coming from a hospitality background, I always tell my staff is like, you never know who walks through that door. The person, you just say hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, just having a conversation. Like nobody has a conversation anymore.
Yeah.
I said, so always have a conversation. It doesn't matter if they don't buy anything, ask them how their day is going. Ask them if they're going to a restaurant, if they need any help. You'd be surprised what happens.
That matters.
That to me, just having that simple thing, like so many times you ask somebody, says, no, I'm okay. But they'll turn around, well, I have one question. Yeah. I'm like, so breaking that up, making it light. And then, again, I just happened on Saturday. I had a random person walking on Saturday and asked me if I had done any of these high-end wines. I said, yeah. And I said, before he could even talk to me anymore, I said, would you like a glass of wine? And he says, yeah, I would actually. And I was like, so.
Well, that's what I was about to bring up is that people, their immediate reaction is, well, how much does it cost? Yeah. And you're just like, you're sharing a glass of wine for free and you're having tastings often and people walk in, well, I don't have a reservation. You don't need a reservation. Yeah. This is a lounge. This is is your living room kind of thing. And you really have conveyed that. You and your whole team have always conveyed that over the years, which is really, really remarkable.
Yeah. Well, I think on wine though, because I think you have some expertise in that. We're hearing about wine and how it's gone through a hard time.
Yeah.
And we're doing our part. We're drinking. I think we're drinking more than ever.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Yeah. But what's your outlook on wine?
Love this, by the way.
And
by the way, let me just interrupt very quickly.
What are we drinking, John?
The first time in our entire history of the podcast that a guest has provided us a bottle of wine that we're enjoying. Tell us a little bit about this one, Scott.
Well, thank you. And it's handy when you own a wine shop as well. But no, this is a wine, was a brainchild of two people, a gentleman by the name of Gary Van Brunt and myself many years ago. And I met him at the Arizona Biltmore. We did a famous wine dinner for Aubert de Villaine from Domaine Romani Conti, which is the most legendary Pinot Noir in the world. And he was not a big lover of Pinot Noir, Gary Van Brunt. And I said, no, you need to come to this dinner. You'll change your mind. And he says, I bet you I won't. So he came to the dinner and he enjoyed it. And he says, one day you and I should make a wine like this. And I was like, impossible. I mean, I didn't say impossible, but I just said, I like the way you're thinking. And so fast forward many years later, I moved to Napa and I'm sitting down with my neighbor who happened to work at DRC back in the day and had some Burgundy experience. And that was Tom Farella. Oh. And he mentioned to me about some clones and selections that were available that he knew of in vineyards. And so anyway, we got to work on this wine and I called up my friend and I said, guess what? I found something not as good as DRC, but something comparable. And they come from old Latache clone. So anyway, we went ahead and made this wine. It's called Panu. It's French for tire or new, pneumatic. And it was kind of an interesting, on the label there, it's the Pirelli font. We got permission from Pirelli tires to use the font. Oh. And so he actually Gary is retired now, but he was the CEO of Discount Tire or America's Tire Company. So that's the short version, the Evelyn Wood. Yeah.
But let's go back to the original question. I like the plug, John. Very well done there.
Absolutely.
I think you have a future in that.
Yeah.
But in terms of wine though, Scott, so what's your take on it? Is it as bad? Because we hear it all, right? It's doom and gloom. People are selling wine. What's your take?
And vineyards and property.
Yeah. So I think that, I'll give you my humble opinion. And about a year and a half ago, I could see that the punter, the buyer is not buying the wines as much. The market was, had a lot of wines over $200 a bottle. But at the same time, you have to understand fruit prices have gone up, and so when people are coming in trying to make wines from certain vineyards, they're handcuffed in what they can do.
Yeah.
I was saying like people aren't buying these wines. People are buying, looking for cheaper wines. And then also there's been the change of generational change and buyers and expectations and what they have has changed considerably. You're moved on from the new buyers who are not necessarily wine focused. There's never been as many products on the market, many SKUs, wines. smart waters to seltzers, to mushrooms, to weed, to everything else. So now you've got a market that is like heavily impacted by all these different choices. And you think about it, one of the other things was huge that I kind of looked at was the actual, 5 years ago, you went to a wine shop and bought your wine. You loaded up on your wine for, hey, I'm going to drink these wines for the next 6 months or a year or whatever. Nowadays,
or a week or two.
Yeah. Nowadays, the last couple of years, Deliveroo, you can hit Deliveroo and you can have a bottle of Petrus delivered to your door tomorrow morning. So there is no need for you to go out there.
The inventory management.
Yeah. I mean, tech has definitely impacted the whole consumption side of things and the sort of access and the planning. We don't need to plan. I mean, people living in smaller houses. We don't need to have a case of wine lying around. We can have it delivered the next day and pay the extra.
See, I think you're spot on because I have a friend that's in trucking and logistics, and he kind of said the same thing early on. So look, we're still shipping wine, but the volume of how we ship is changing. I said, okay, that's a problem, but is consumption changing? Because that's what I care about.
Yeah.
Like, are people drinking less wine? And that's a hard question to answer sometimes, but it's just technology influenced the management of wine from shipping to holding to inventory. And consequently, that also shifted cash flow around for people, right? So I think your perspective is pretty spot on in terms of what I'm hearing.
I think our older generation is slowing down in the drinking. They're sitting on huge cellars.
Not all of us.
Yeah, not all of us.
Did you just say you admitted to being part of the older category, John?
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
I considered you young and youthful.
As I'm having to fix a shoulder.
Go ahead. You drink more.
I think that there are some wineries out there right now, and I obviously talk to people on a daily basis. And I think there's some smart people out there that are addressing the changes that need to happen. The affordability thing is a huge part. And it helps with like having people, for over the last few years, we've had too many people setting up appointments and kind of all this kind of, back and forth and exchange. And it's like the old days of Napa, when we all first came here is you bellied up to the bar. 99% of the time you either met the winemaker, you met the winery owner, you met the principal or something like that, no matter. And you might end up having lunch or dinner or God knows what. And that's how friendships were formed. And I still see this, Ren Harris is a genius with Paradigm. He has an open door policy for many, many years. Of course, it's appointments now. But I mean, I remember when I first moved to the Valley, I went straight to his winery because I knew of his wine from tasting it back in Arizona. Somebody gave me a bottle one time. And I said, I want to get this wine. It was hard to get. So just sending people there is an example. Like you get to meet the owner. I mean, how many places do you do that anymore? And you create that magic that most places are lacking. Now it's very formal. It's a talk reservation. You have to be there's going to be a food thing and whatever. And I think that the food thing, I'm sorry, some people are going to hate me for saying this, but food should be up for the restaurants. The restaurants are here. They helped build this valley. The winery should stay in their lane. They should just keep the wine. By all means, offer a cracker or whatever else. Yeah. But, doing the full on stuff, it takes away from the things that help build this valley. And I think from a chefing perspective, I think it's very important.
I don't think you're wrong. Right. And I'm not going to say the county when I was there went after some folks that featured their chef more than their winemaker. Like to me, that's not balance.
Yeah.
Right. I think the problem with that is people were searching for an experience, Scott, of how do you differentiate yourself? And because the county regulated the shit out of everyone, it's like, well, let's figure this out. Well, it's like, look, instead of serving food, go jump on a quad or a horse and go in the vineyard and connect with the farm worker or the farm ranch hand. That matters, but they couldn't do that, right? And I think part of what you saw was the tension of wineries are regulated so damn hard that they were pushing. Because I agree. I want to go to Don Giovanni's and eat there and then go to a winery. I don't want to go to a winery and have Bolognese. Like that's not what I'm there for, right? But it was this pressure point that I think people are starting to recognize, John, and we talked about it with AB 720?
720, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Where they're allowing people to do more.
Which is allowing some folks to taste and tour in the vineyards, but that's only a certain portion of the whole sector. Being a small business owner, again, it's so difficult under normal, regular, less volatile circumstances. I don't think people understand, in your case in particular, like the price that you pay you have an incredible and very exclusive inventory. You really stand out with the kinds of wine experiences you can get from your business.
So tell us a little, as someone that doesn't know or someone,
and what it takes to be able to keep that existing for 2+ decades.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I remember when I first started the business, like trying to get some of the famous wines that were the Screaming Eagles of the world, the
Yeah.
Harlands and the Allocate, the Colgans and whatever. They were hard wines to come by. And then obviously the financial crisis came along and that helped move
Different
things wrong. But
motivation.
yeah, I mean, it's a capital investment. I pride myself in the fact there's a $10 bottle of Pinot Grigio in my store and there's a $45,000 bottle of wine inside in the store. So it's kind of, I have something for everyone in there. I think back at my whole thing and what I'm trying to do again with Panchas is that like have like somewhere like the Cheers where, where people in the know like to go, it's
Yeah.
like, that's what, again, having, if you have the locals coming to you and the winemakers coming to you, then the guests, will, the tourists will come after that and so on. But, yeah, just making somewhere warm, friendly that people know that they're not going to get, it's not going to be stuck up as far as like, you have to have a certain amount of money to come in here, or it's just basically there's something for everyone.
Let me ask you a question about wine, because you hear about those iconic winemakers, right? That and growers that did so much for the valley, and we should, pay thanks to them, right? Because they took a risk. But I think part of it is how do you have that next generation of vintners
Sure.
and growers and winemakers, because that's exciting. So are you seeing that wave happen, or are you seeing that Napa's just maybe resting on our laurels too much?
I think that for a few years we've had a lot of corporations coming in
Yeah.
and buying up a lot of power brands, and that it has been a chunk of it. But I've seen the next generation of owners and vintners, and there's definitely energy amongst them right now. I mean, like everyone's out traveling trying to sell wine.
That's
You know,
true.
you have Napa Valley or Naples was just this last weekend, and then was NVV was in, I guess, in Coral Gables or West Palm Beach or something like that. I mean, to go and get the sales right now, you have to be on the road. I think that there's definitely a humbling factor going on where winery owners are like, okay, what are we doing? I've heard of a couple of places that have said, like, you know what, we're not going to do appointments and we're not going to charge. We're just going to go back to the old days. And I think that I had this conversation, I won't mention with who, but a pretty famous individual yesterday from a
He'll
famous
tell us
family.
off air.
But and I said to him, look, he said to me, well, what do you think? I said, look, it starts with the pricing. I mean, make it affordable to come up here, because again, think about what people are saying. Food has gone up exponentially. The cost of doing restaurants. I mean, I'd hate to be in the restaurant business right now. I mean, as much as I love the restaurant business, I mean, they're bearing some massive costs.
Yeah.
I mean, the staffing and insurance and food cost,
Labor costs.
I mean, it's just you're making nothing, hardly anything for a lot of hard work. So
It's enough to make somebody want to drink really good Napa Valley wine.
Yeah, well, that's it. But I mean, I think that getting back to, I've seen prices reduced on some great wines, which is encouraging because now it's accessible. I've been pouring some wines by the glass at my store that people have been like, wow, you got this at this price. I mean, this is great. I've always wanted to try it. It's getting back to that is definitely going to help. I think that the more we can support our local chefs, local businesses, and everything goes in tow together. All boats rise in the same tide. I mean, it's looking at what you guys are doing downtown here. It seems like it's a real. It's great to see the evolution of downtown Napa
and the investment that I think people are making.
Massive investment and really a commitment to downtown Napa, which has been pretty impressive, very impressive.
Yeah.
We hear a lot of different perspectives of people that do say that this is all overdone. There was always going to be a correction in the market because too many hotels, too many wineries, too many restaurants, all of them too expensive, as you were alluding to earlier. There are many reasons for that. And there's no one single reason. There's no one single solution. But I do think that the history of Napa Valley has been a very resilient history, not only natural disasters, but economic crises and
1932.
Yes. Yeah.
It was broke. It was flap houses and bars and it's a pretty interesting.
And thank goodness for the church wine that allowed some to still grow grapevines. But I think there is a strength in the foundation of this valley. And there are times when people is like, they don't really support the wine industry or hospitality. And my question to those folks is, well, what would you rather have here? And there's really never even an answer. And so it's like, I think we're very fortunate to have the kind of climate, soils, investment, love of the land that all comes together to be one of the best wine regions in the world. Most people would really, love to see that in their community. We get to enjoy it.
Well, I've always said, look, if you don't like what's here, there's plenty of other cities that you could go to.
482 other cities in
there
California.
You go. No, I agree. But look, I do have a question. It's kind of an odd question. It's around bulk wine.
We're not drinking enough.
No, so I'm just curious because I was talking to someone about bulk wine the other day, and maybe you have expertise in this, Scott, or you don't. But I think when I first heard about bulk wine, it was an outlet for shitty stuff to get rid of, to deploy, so that way it's not touching the quality bottles. But I think the bulk wine has become a different marketplace where people were able to go and flood the market with wine that was affordable, and sometimes it came at the expense of the traditional bottles of wine. Again, I'm just a grower. I don't make wine, but it's, as a business person, I'm like, I wonder if bulk wine has reached a point where it's impacting normal wine sales. So
yeah, it has. I mean, just these last two harvests are indicative. Like, we've got so much juice on the market, and it's quality, and
but it was never intended to be, though, right? Like, at least, what? Because it was supposed to be the top off.
Yeah,
it
was supposed to be off label.
Yeah, but now it's become, you can get some pretty good freaking juice on there.
No, it's the quality is fantastic. There's no room for subpar, first of all. The last two vintages have been huge. I mean, and the economic sort of seesaw on that one is unfortunately their side. I mean, I know Costco and Trader Joe's and all these guys that came in and bought tens of thousands of gallons at bargain pricing. I mean, quality fruit. So, I mean, the wine is great. I think that it doesn't matter what level of wine you're drinking in my world. I think if you're drinking a $10 bottle of wine, you're drinking wine, and that's good. So, you can always, if it's $10, maybe tomorrow or the year from now it'll be $15 or whatever. It goes up, but people want to experiment and want to try, and that's the beauty of it. I think that talking to a couple of young people the other day and saying, like, what are the roadblocks right now? And one young gal says, like, I don't like that. I think the packaging's too bulky, and it seems too complicated to understand where the wines are coming from. And I think that needs to be a part of better education from all of us. It's all well and grand. We all have some wine knowledge, but explaining what is important about the terroirs, what's important about the appellations and where the wines come from, what makes wines different from here in, say, Germany or France or whatever it might be. So not to get too technical on that, but I think with the advantage of technology, again, I think there's ways that can be done. And I think that we need to sort of embrace that. I've seen, I know the Napa Valley vintners are always working and looking at things. I've seen Sonoma vintners doing some stuff that's pretty cool and outreaching. But I think it starts with that. I mean, and considering we're in such a wine-based community, it's important that we get that message out there and how we educate people.
Right on.
So looking at kind of the future as we're wrapping up today, what do you forecast 5, 10, another 20 years for Napa Valley and for you and your businesses?
I'm always the glass is half full. So even though when my accountant's saying like we don't have any more money,
that's our job.
But I'm an optimist. I think the pendulum swings. I think that there will be a correction. There is continuing to be a correction here. I think we're not at the bottom yet. I think we have another year to go. I think that smart people the community will get together and figure this out. I know things are already happening, and again, I think going back to the adage, like once that happens, it will bring back the people, and I think the affordability is a big thing. I mean, everyone's complaining about it, I know, and I know that it's probably a Hail Mary to say that things are going to get cheaper, but there has to be some sort of relief somewhere.
But I also, on the affordability piece of Scott, I think a lot of it is perception, right? Because, I have a routine in the morning. I go drop off my kids. I go to coffee. John knows that. And that line at wherever I go to coffee is always fucking long. Mm-hmm. And they've increased the price. And I see the same people every day.
Right.
So I'm doing the math, right? They're going there 5 times a week, right? $25 a pop, $25 a pop. That's $25 per week. Mm-hmm. Right. So someone's spending $25 per week on coffee, right? You multiply that per month. So affordability is relative to that person. I think what's different with wine, and why I think wine is going to be okay,
But hang on a second. 3 of those coffee shops closed down.
That's yeah, that's true. At the Global Skull, not in Napa though. But
I think you guessed correctly, by the way.
But the thing about wine though is we're social creatures, right? Yes. And the reason I don't,
it's a cultural thing too, not just morning beverage.
Whether you're celebrating because you're getting surgery, I'm going to have a glass of wine in your honor.
Thank you.
Right. Or whether my kids get home and I need a glass of wine, I'm going to have a glass. It's a social element. And I think human nature wants us to socialize, and wine is that thing. Mm-hmm. You can't socialize over tequila because you won't remember, right? Potentially. Or beer, you lose your app. Wine is unique in that sense. Mm-hmm. And to me, whether you're young or old, I think there's always going to be a place for that. It's just how do we make sure that we don't get distracted as a region, right? For Napa County. So,
well, that sounds like as good a reason as any to drink again.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today, Scott.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Cheers.
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 Cheers. Alfredo, I've known Scott for a couple decades, and I like him as a person, but I also really respect what he's done. Own now 2 businesses in Yountville. He's still committed to his community.
Look, I agree in the fact that, I asked him if he did business while you were mayor, and he said yes. And what a vote of confidence for you, John. I was not expecting that answer, but look, to be taking on Panchas in a time when it's hard to make an investment, and he did it, and I think him and his group deserve a lot of credit, John, because it's easy to sit on the sidelines, right? Especially when I hear that he had to do CEQA for a building that should have been fucking torn down yesterday. That's ridiculous. And then you have an owner, John, that said, I'm trying to serve locals. And that money that he spent on doing CEQA for a stupid reason, and I'm saying that no one else, could have gone towards serving locals, could have gone towards some additional improvements, right? That's the stupidness of regulations that we're dealing with, John.
My takeaway is that they really respected the history of Panchas. One of the most iconic.
Don't justify it, John.
If not the most. No, I'm talking about the commitment they made.
Oh, okay, good.
That I'm not saying anything about CEQA, but it's that their focus was not only keeping this a locals business hangout, but also protecting and preserving the historic nature of it. And yes, it had to be modernized, absolutely. And I still haven't even been there yet, but the photos I've seen are beautiful, and I really respect that they put all the time, effort, and money into one of the most iconic and historic businesses we have in this valley.
And John, kind of like what I'm getting proud of with our podcast is that we're highlighting that story, right? Of someone that is all in, taking huge risk on investing in Napa in a time when their banks, maybe, and their bankers and their financial people are saying, don't do it. They're doing it because they care, right? And you could see it in Scott. He's been here for over 20 years. He cares. And that matters, and that's showing up in outcomes time and time again. So I think he deserves, an attaboy for what he's doing.
And I think we have the opportunity either to do a remote episode from V Wine Cellar or especially from Pancha.
I just don't want a warm tequila like I experienced that time, John.
He'll take good care of you. Cheers.
Thank God. I'll need a double.